Hello, everybody, and welcome. We have a champion. The Kings, after 17 years, are the Kings, funnily enough, of the NBL. Wherever you might be, hello to you. In particular, to the purple and gold fans who no doubt are still enjoying what was a wonderful last Wednesday night. Get involved. Hashtag NBL Overtime at NBL. So much to get into. Homicide in the house. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing well. Kings got the rings.
They did. They did.
Liam, over to you.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised we don't have a broom around here. I'm going to put it straight out there. You're the number one journalist in the game. It has got back to me that Paul Smith's tattoo that he told us he was going to get is in fact a broom. Have you heard anything about that?
Come on now, Kyle. I'm interested to see what it is, but yeah, the Kings are the champs. Big congrats to the. You called it, Cam. You called it from
Hang on.
very early on.
I can't take all the credit because the Kings played their part as well. I've got to give a little bit of credit to the players and the coaches. I am now 3 for 3 on this very show for predicting a champion. Perth, Melbourne, Kings. I've gone 3 in a row.
Pre-season selection?
Pre-season selections.
I think the
3 from
most
3.
impressive one has been for sure the Kings, because I didn't see this coming from back then, preseason.
Well, let's get into it because it was outstanding. It was a great series. And again, when you see a sweep and one of the teams doesn't win a game, you automatically assume the series wasn't jam-packed with highlights and wonderful moments. This 100% was great from the opening tip of Game 1 all the way to the end of Game 3. Wednesday night, monstrous crowd. Big shout out to the Sydney fans, sports fans, basketball fans getting out there. And this was a great game.
It was. It was a great game to cap off what was an historic season in so many different ways. The Wildcats miss the finals, the JackJumpers get in there, and the Kings break their championship drought in front of a record grand final crowd, and the JackJumpers played them tough, really tough. We last spoke on this desk after game 2 where it came right down to the wire, and we come into this one and they're riddled with illness. No Jack McVeigh, no Fabian Krislovic. Matt Kenyon out there like the walking dead, and the coaches under the weather as well. But that guy in particular, Josh Adams, Josh Majette battled hard. That whole group rallied and made this a really hard-fought win for the Kings. And Ian Clark, huge down the stretch. They had a whole bunch of heroes, but Ian Clark in particular, late in this crunch moment, was massive. And they ended up getting that ring that they'd not been able to get for so long.
They did this, Homicide, without the MVP. Without the best player in the league, they were able to win 2 games in a row. It is a remarkable testament to the depth, and we'll talk about Ian Clark a little more in a moment, as we just alluded to. But to be able to do this without the MVP is remarkable in any league in the world.
100%. Usually MVPs, you take them away from their club, the team, like there's a big drop-off, and there really wasn't. Let's be clear. We all know that they were going to win this series, but it just made it that much more impressive for, a guy like that right there, grand final MVP, Xavier Cooks. Huge. Those numbers were ridiculous. Ian Clark has stepped up in key moments throughout the second half of this season, which showed everybody that, he was exactly what his pedigree was on paper. He stepped up big time, and, Vasiljevic, everybody stepped up. Jarrell Martin, McCaw, everybody stepped up, and there was a great collective effort. Credit to him. I mean, this team was grooving. Once they hit that 13-game win streak, it didn't matter whether they had home court advantage or not. No one was doubting the Kings this year to win that grand finals, especially when they started grooving. It was like, get a ring to the Kings. They were just too strong. So they got the job done, and credit to them.
I just want to touch on Ian Clark, and I don't legitimately think this is a possibility for all clubs in the NBL for differing reasons. But I think we've spoken a little bit on this show before. I like the idea of keeping that third import slot open. In particular, now the pandemic is, touch wood, kind of passed. So you're not having to put someone in quarantine. And if you allow the season, not just your own season, but to see how the league and possible trend might change a little bit, and it allows you to make that decision. Again, I think it's more slanted towards the Perths, the Melbournes, the Sydneys of the world that have maybe more finances, and I don't know that for certain, but that's how it looks like from the outside looking in. It allows the season to unfold and you to fill the slot, because we all assumed they were going to go with a bigger guy. They went with a wing that in the end was essentially not the crowning piece to it, but when Jalen Adams got hurt, that Ian Clark just being able to step up was a huge part of it.
Yeah, he was a sensational mid-season pickup. One of the best ever. One of the best mid-season pickups in NBL history. Now, not the best. Bryce Cotton in 2017, when they were last at Christmas, and he took them to the championship and won them with a 45-point closeout game. That's the best. There's never been better. And there's been others. Marcus Timmons, I think, 1997, Melbourne Tigers, and some others. Don't forget, they didn't keep this spot open. RJ Hunter went down. Might have been the best thing that ever happened.
But they didn't rush straight into it once RJ Hunter, who had struggled with injuries almost from the opening weekend, in fact, into pre-season.
Yeah.
So they didn't panic when they had and I'm sure they were negative 500, but they were around that 500 point round 10, round 11, whenever it might have been.
Yeah.
So they took their time.
Certainly found the right guy. I mean, he was absolutely terrific for them. And you talk to anybody there around the Kings, they'll talk on and off the floor. They'll say, you guys are seeing what he's doing on the floor. He's been amazing for us in big moments. He has the ability to kind of take control of the game when Jalen goes out or when he goes down. But particularly off the floor, with, you know, on the practice floor, in preparation for games, in the locker room, on the bench, you know, as a shining example of a guy accepting a role and excelling in it. He was huge for them.
And when he got the pill, all right, I don't think players around the world understand the importance of having the basketball that is the one used in a Michael Jordan was big on it. Michael Jordan cared more about the basketball than he did the actual trophy. And Ian Clark has not that's the moment that the buzzer went. And my belief, and a fair bit of social media investigative work, suggesting that he has not let that, what have we got, Spalding go since the moment that game ended. Homicide?
I mean, you know, as you said, Liam, we've watched the games, whether we call it together, separate, or on our days off. When the Kings played, there was always critical stages in games where when Ian Clark had the ball, there was a high IQ play being made, whether he was hitting a deep three, taking it to the rack, making the right pass. In multiple games down the stretch, there was times like when they were playing Illawarra, that overtime thriller in Illawarra. They went over there and got the win. Jalen Adams had cramps. He had to be out that game. Ian Clark then took it over with hitting big bombs from the three, just reading the game correctly and making the high percentage play. And with a guy like that, with obviously NBA championship experience, and was making plays during that run when they had the championship in Golden State, for him to come in here, he was more than comfortable to slide into that role. And mind you, he ain't a point guard. He's just a player, a playmaker. You know what I mean? So he was making great plays. Shout out to him. I'd keep that ball too.
Hey, there's so many different people within the championship to mention and pay credit to, you know, and a guy like Jarrell Martin, for example.
Oh, facts.
Has just flown. The numbers he was putting up down the stretch of that championship series were unbelievable. He was terrific. But I think one guy who's really flown under the radar within that organisation and the role he's played in this championship is CEO Chris Pongrass. And we saw him in some of the footage there, standing off to the side, celebrating. They have really made some great decisions with this roster along the way. Jarrell Martin and the ability to bring him back for a second year, and he's leaner and he's faster and he's tougher and he's better. Jalen Adams, of course, but then all those other pieces, so like Xavier Cooks 3 years ago, and then despite the injuries, knowing and believing he would be what he ended up being, which was a dominant force, the best player on a championship team in that grand final series. But also, you look at the rest of their roster, those other pieces. They signed Vasiljevic to a long-term, multi-year deal as a rookie. And then they've got him on this great contract at for year two there. But Tom Vodanovic, they picked him up as an injury replacement. He becomes fully contracted. Sean Bruce was out of the league a couple of years ago. Wani Swakala-Bullock was fourth on this team in minutes played on a championship-winning team. Start of the year, they picked him up off the scrap heap and signed him up as an injury replacement. He's done a really terrific job with that roster.
He has.
Yeah, remember Xavier Cooks was going to go to Europe? Remember he was sitting sideline, and Pongrass obviously in 4 or 5 days was able to convince him. Outstanding, and it's built like his NBA experience, and this is an NBA feel of the way they put their team together and the way they look at certain things both on and off the court, and a huge amount of credit. I'll be honest, he texted me last week, Chris. He was sulky that Paul Smith was on NBL Overtime before he's had an opportunity for a couple of years, but no doubt we'll get him on. You got anything else before we get to the Jack Jumpers?
Let's not forget McCall Maker. That young man, his second half, he stormed in very, very loud. And in the first half, again, a lot of times with these young, talented kids, because that's what they are, it doesn't hit in the beginning. You know what I mean? It takes time. You want to see the end result, how they've developed, and the way he stormed home to show his skill set at both ends. He has a bright future. That's a great pickup for him as well.
Mm-hmm. Couldn't agree more. Let's talk Tassie.
Woo! Man.
What a story. We said it last week, one of the great stories in Australian sporting history, not just necessarily in the basketball world. A team that was constructed a particular way by head coach Scott Roth that had the whole state jump on board, make waves, make noise, march, march, march. I've had the pleasure of being in there a couple of times, as I've spoken about. Even they had to fight adversity, as you alluded to, into the last game of the year. Jack McVeigh had been a huge piece of it. Unbelievable. And what a building block for this franchise going forward after season number 1.
Nah, 100%. That was sensational. We're going to remember 3 things about NBL 22. We're going to remember that the Kings were the champs. We're going to remember that Perth missed the playoffs and the streak was broken. And we're going to remember this remarkable achievement of the JackJumpers in year 1, to go all the way to the grand final series and play it tough. A bounce of the ball here and there, and it was 1-1 after the opening couple of games, and this thing would have gone on to 4 at least. And then it just was what they did in Game 3, heavily undermanned, running on fumes, some of those guys, to play that as tough as they did was emblematic of their season, of just the fact that they time and time again defied expectations, beat the odds, and represented themselves, that team and the state at a really high level. So tremendous season by them.
You know how much I love the JackJumpers. And to be honest with you, there are no losers in the NBL Grand Finals. They just didn't get the rings, but they won the hearts of the whole country, especially their state. And again, you got to give a shout out to NBL front office, Larry Kesselman, for going down there and making the play happen. The Tasmanian government, everybody getting behind them, because it's a hit. And there's no way that if you are other sporting codes, you're not looking like, we missed the boat. We got to get down there. And that's what happens. So shout out to everybody that was involved to make that play happen.
They're 30 for 30.
They are.
The JackJumpers. You called it a movie a few weeks ago. It's, just the story of what they were able to achieve. But for me, the cool thing about the way the grand final series, it would have been great. Cinderella go all the way and win the championship. But the way it finished off, this league, it's very healthy for this league that the Sydney Kings, in a market as big as that, the biggest market in all of Australia, are successful and are the champions. That's great. And at the end of the season, we're in the middle of the footy season, AFL, NRL, right across the country. But to have the national media cut through that the JackJumpers story had, and to finish the season with a grand final record crowd in that Kudos Bank Arena, what a terrific way to finish it all off.
We sat courtside, Game 3. It was like an NBL overtime, except we had red wine. And you asked me who you would sign first as Majette or Adams. And we disagreed. I was an Adams guy, you were Majette. After what Adams has done, has it at all swayed your mind? I think they've got to bring them both back.
Both.
Right? Agreed. Yep, we agree. Both coming back. But you still go Majette first? Who ended up being more important to this incredible story in your mind?
Look, probably in the end, Josh Adams. I mean, his shot making in the playoffs, he went to a whole nother level in the playoffs. There was Josh Adams in the regular season, which was great. It was good enough for all NBL second team. And you could have an argument that he was all NBL first team over Antonius Cleveland. You could sit down and have that conversation. But he went to a whole nother level. I mean, he performed at an MVP level in those 2 rounds of the finals. So, yeah, he ended up being that guy, but both. You've got to bring both those dudes back.
So I was, again, over a red wine last night, jotting some things down, okay? So I agree. And again, when it comes to finances and availability and all the rest of it, I understand how hard it is. Majette and Adams seems like a no-brainer. You've got Will Magnay coming back. A lot has been made of the fact that their marquee signing barely played this year. When things got serious, he was doing a great job on the bench, but that's all he could do. If you were to add a Robert Franks or a Vic Law type player to this unit, because their bench is looked after. so much of what is going on with who they've already got under contract. Next thing you know, you have Majette, Adams, McVeigh went to this new level. If you throw a guy, a similar player like a Franks or a Law, and I'm talking that type of player, Will Magnay comes in. It's hard to do what they did and replicate it. They have to go to a whole new level like everyone does. But all of a sudden, the excitement in Tasmania is building, and you're building this really, really, really good basketball team as well.
I agree. They need one more gun, and those two names, either of them fit the bill. Because they're going to need another guy that can create and score. Believe it or not, Will Magnay will be under some sort of pressure coming in this upcoming season. As a marquee player, they did it without you. So you're going to have to come in and prove, because if you're playing and underperforming, we did it without you. That means you'll be on the sideline watching if you don't come in correct. But, yeah, any of those two names would be really, really good. Or those two types.
Those type of players is what I was sort of more getting to, more so than the actual name.
They're going to need a gun.
Yeah, it's tricky. You got Will Magnay back. He's your starting centre. You want to recruit an import power forward to start over Jack McVeigh?
I reckon you can find a way to start McVeigh to 3.
Yeah. I mean, I think he excelled moving here, and his big improvement came from learning that new position and becoming that undersized stretch 4 that's tough to guard. But yeah, no doubt they need more weaponry, right? Whether that's like an Ian Clark type guy off the bench, you know, a guy that when they rest, because we saw in the playoffs, when they rested Josh Majette and Josh, both of them together, disaster. Any one of them at any given time, and it wasn't quite what they needed to be. So that extra weapon. The big name for me, though, with the JackJumpers is the guy who I think right now is the face of the franchise, Scott Roth. Officially under contract moving into next year, but that's no done deal that he's going to be back with that team. So,
well, what are you hearing?
My understanding is he's keen to renegotiate, and he's also said, look, if it means that I have to walk away and head home, then so be it. So that's an interesting situation, because we talk about all those guys and we know that the game is won on the floor, but where we also know and appreciate how massive a role he played in the success of that team in year 1 and what they were able to achieve.
So when you say go home, you mean there are some possible NBA organisation offers on the table, or at least heading towards it?
No,
Because he's not going to quit coaching, right?
He might.
He might quit coaching. Okay.
I mean,
it's a family decision, isn't it?
He's got very much a family decision. He talks about how he missed all that time with his family. They've gone back home now. They've built a house back home in the States that he's never seen or stepped foot in. And you combine that with the fact that, he does have a big offer in Japan that's kind of like triple what he's earning right now, so that's on the table. So there's some stuff to be worked out behind the scenes, but I'm praying to God. We've lost some good coaches along the way. We need Scott Roth back in charge of the JackJumpers next season.
You're about to be the mayor of Hobart as well. Well, surely the local government can tip in a couple of dollars. All right, let's get to free agency, because it officially starts on Friday. By that, right now, if you don't understand it or know, the NBL teams can sign their current players and announce it, but come Friday, you can poach players if you're that way inclined. Let's start with the Cairns Taipans, because the announcement went out yesterday. Keanu Pindu, Bull Quoll, Rookie of the Year, and Keanu Pindu had an incredible year as well, most improved player. Their 2 award winners are staying in far north Queensland. Homicide, that's great news.
As they should. They both had tremendous seasons, we know, with the awards that they've won, and they are going to play a big role and a big part in this Cairns Taipans team. So well done to them both.
But look, he's one of my most favourite players to watch, Keanu Pindu, mainly because his personality lends itself to excitement, and sometimes, in particular, more when he was at Adelaide, some uncertainty. But last year, he made that consistent step to making sure that every game was one that continued to get better. Now, I will raise this, Liam, because you know that I'm a stickler for this. So, mutual options.
Yep.
So these two men agreed, the mutual option, which you know that I don't believe in, they agreed that whatever was put on paper when they signed the deal at the start of last year is what they took up going into next year.
Nah, come on, that's not what's taken place here.
But that's what a mutual option is, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what the Snakes have said, that they've taken up their mutual options. But no, they've re-signed with the Taipans, is my understanding.
Yep.
And good on them.
Bloody
really
hell.
good decision by both of these guys. Make no mistake, they've left more money on the table to re-sign with that squad. Now, that says a lot about the organisation up there, the fan support, says a lot about Adam Ford, that they want to go back and play for the guy who they broke out under this season for the Taipans, and it's a great result for that team and that community. And I think personally, and despite, you want to make the money while you can because your career as a player is shorter than you think. But I think it's a really good decision and a good result for both of those guys. I flagged it on the broadcast about a month or so ago. This is a great situation for them there. And we've seen a lot of examples over the years in the NBL and elsewhere around the world where guys, they seek a bigger pay packet as a result of having a good year, but they move into worse situations and their career as a whole suffers. But I think these guys have made the right call.
Agreed. Angus Glover. Perfect example, actually. Finds himself in a situation now as a championship winner, staying in Sydney. No real surprise on this is Angus Glover, who you've spoken about earlier in the year as well. And we know what he's been through. It's been sucky. He's got the unbelievable mental strength of probably better than anyone ever in the NBL. Now he's a championship winner. He'll stay in the purple and gold.
Yeah, good on him, as he should. He played a good role coming off the bench, being one of their enforcers on the defensive end. And why not? You found a nice place to stay, and you won there. It makes perfect sense to me.
And throws a little bit of edge to that whole Illawarra Sydney situation. Of course, he was involved. I think it might have been the first,
the catalyst,
second meeting. The catalyst towards this bad blooded rivalry, which leagues around the world thrive on. I'm glad he's staying in Sydney for about 50 different reasons, but good on him.
Oh, I think he's got a little bit of upside as well, Angus Glover,
no doubt.
that we maybe don't talk about too often. Another good signing by Chris Pongras and this Kings organisation because, off the 3 knee injuries, well, it was 2 and then they signed him and then he's had another since. There's question marks about him and his durability, but there's a lot of talent and he's a great kid and a really hard worker and nice to see him come back.
All right, number 1 broadcaster in the game, Studs and Duds, nbl.com.au. We know how great you are, Liam, at these type of things. Are you expecting anything really interesting to pop up early when free agency opens on Friday?
Ooh. I think there's going to be a little bit between now and then.
Okay.
There'll be some announcements because, about options, who's taken up options, some guys that have re-signed that teams will want to get out there early. Like, my eyes are focused on Mitch Creek at the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. And, I'm expecting, we spoke recently to say I think that was really, really, really close to being done. I'm expecting an announcement sometime soon that he'll be back with the Phoenix. So that's, I'm keeping my eyes out for that. I'm really interested to see what's going on over in New Zealand. 2 guys in particular, Finn Delaney, Will McDowell-White, as we head towards free agency opening. Where are those 2 guys going to land? And then obviously there's some massive names, right? Some guys behind us on the wall here, some championship winners. How many of those key guys, Martin, Clark, Adams, Cooks, can they bring back? Dejan Vasiljevic, player option for his 3rd year. Does that get taken up or left on the table and he explores free agency in the next little bit? So, a lot to look forward to in these next couple of days.
Oh. This is an interesting one because without having any idea, I don't think anyone could see what was probably coming. He comes out of a really strong school, played really good at college in a really tough conference, signs on, is really good off the top, then gets hurt, then comes back and plays way better than I think even he expected. I know he's got about as much confidence in the NBL, but I don't think he expected to bounce back off such a tough injury. Jack White probably likewise. Interesting one because I would think he'll want to stay in this organisation, no doubt, but the financial offers that might come elsewhere will probably, I assume, based on circumstance, be a little bit higher. What do you make of this Sydney team? Because there's a fair bit of toing and froing still to be done to hold on to your stars.
All right, so is DJV a free agent? Unrestricted?
Player option.
Play option.
Hasn't been announced yet whether he's taking it up or leaving it.
Okay. I saw a quote that was on NBL Instagram. He's like he wants to test the waters, but if he were to sign back here 100%, he'd be with the Sydney Kings. There's been some talk, potentially Southeast Melbourne Phoenix. 100%, if he signed back in this league, it would be with Sydney Kings. After hitting a shot, a ginormous Game 2 shot, these are shots that potentially will change your life. Someone didn't understand what I was saying a couple weeks ago when Josh Adams hit that corner shot. Look what that was the shot that, remember, again, this is a Cinderella team that knocks out Goliath, right? David and Goliath. So now people can see you actually have in the clutch the heart and the courage to take the shot, but the ability to make it. everybody looks at you different at that point. Then he goes to the grand finals, does what he does. I don't know how you keeping Josh Adams here, because there's going to be some big money going to be thrown at him. Same with him. And he's a local, which means he just solidified his rep here and went on to win it. So it's going to have a lot of offers.
Have you?
And he's half European, right?
Absolutely.
Dual citizenship thing.
Absolutely. He's
Oh my goodness. Yo, look.
Here and abroad, no doubt.
World class. World class.
World class. World class, right? And he got the collegiate pedigree.
Yes.
So then, now let's slide over. Who's this backcourt mate? The $1 Million Man. Yo, Sydney. Yo, look, it's great.
Have you got, just on the $1 Million Man, have you received a text message recently?
I've had a full conversation. I will not disclose the name, but they want to talk to him.
In the NBL?
No.
What, in Europe?
I won't say it. Just know the $1 Million Man
is it an Asian team?
is a wanted man. Slide over.
So that's the NBA.
I had another
Okay.
conversation.
Another one. Here we go. Sean Long's coming back to the Wildcats.
With the Grand Finals MVP.
Oh, here we go.
Not with him, but about him.
And what league?
With an NBA team.
Now we're starting to talk.
So I'm just saying, man,
Why you hold on to this info till late in the show?
I was in Sydney at the time when it was all happening, but I just know this, man. You do your thing in this league, the world wants you.
Now, we'll get to some coaching changes in a moment. Just hold that for a split second, because while we're talking about the Kings, I want to get to the JD Sports Sneaker of the Week, because Xavier Cooks has had an outstanding year. His future's uncertain where he's going to play, and his feet heat goes to a whole new level. Look at that. They're the Greek freak.
Stay freaky.
Free. All thanks to JD Sports, the undisputed king of trainers. Hang on. We got to put a warning. If you're going to put something that hot on the screen, guy, you got to give me a little warning. They are coming soon to JD Sports. The undisputed king of trainers is the men's Air Jordan 11 low, 72 and 10, when they went bang back in 96. I'll tell you what. I'm going to have to make a call.
You shoot some bricks in those back in the day?
I shot a lot of bricks in those shoes. They launch next Monday, the 23rd of May, via the JD AU app. If you haven't got it yet, I can no longer do a thing for you, but make sure you download the app today to make sure you don't miss out. All thanks to JD Sports.
We were talking about Dejan Vasiljevic. You're talking about the fact that he's a local, and that adds another element to it, and he's maybe entering free agency. What's going to happen with Duop Reith? No Brian Gorgian.
Well,
there, signed a 1-year deal.
Yes. It's really the first big question for the new coach, isn't it?
Well, and this is, obviously a couple weeks ago, Dori Kodai steps down out of the ownership group. He's done a lot of work in the community, and he's done a lot of work securing Brian Gorgian's services to come here. So once, anybody would know, once Dori stepped out, Gorgian was for certain gone. So if he was the catalyst getting a lot of these players in, starting from the coach, why, if you're a big name, why would you stay? Why would you stay? You had a 1-year deal. Plenty of teams are going to want his services in bigger markets. So
from Perth?
From Perth? What were they lacking last year?
Big body.
We all just shoulder shrug.
As we know, the #1 journalist in the game just occasionally throws a little. He's from Perth. Oh, whoa. Hey, apparently Perth's got a team, have they, Liam?
You would 100% be placing a call.
Every NBL team should be placing the call.
Yeah.
Now, we haven't. This is how much has been going on in the last couple of weeks. We didn't even touch on Gorge and the fact that he's no longer coaching the team. Were you surprised? One, by that in 50 seconds, but two, Dan Shamir, the announcement.
Not surprised by either. As Corey said, when the word came out about Dori Kodai, what was going on behind the scenes there, the writing was on the wall with Brian Gorgian. Sad to see. Big opportunity for JackJumpers. Congratulations.
Congratulations to JackJumpers.
To him, but it's sad to see the GOAT not patrolling the sidelines in this league next season. Dan Schmidt, rough couple of years.
Rough.
Makes complete sense that as a family, they make a family decision with what they want to do with their lives moving forward. So Mori Mayor gets that opportunity.
And good luck to him.
Absolutely. Hashtag NBL Overtime to get involved at NBL. Do not miss getting involved. Free agency is about to fire up. I've been working on this for 5 days. Look at this. Look at this. Ian Clark. Just going to put it under me arm for the next 5 days.
Oh, no.
See ya.